Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alana and today we're going to be talking about the things that I have learnt since becoming a bookseller. Now for a little bit of backstory, in 2019 I was lucky enough to join an incredible team of booksellers. I work for an independent bookstore and it's just the dream. It is actually the dream. And I didn't realise that it would be so fulfilling for myself, being a huge book lover and an introverted people person, and it does make me feel very proud that I can call myself a bookseller and that I'm now part of this incredible book industry. But there are some things that I have learnt along the way, and I feel like some of these are myths that have been busted. I feel like some of these are general misconceptions and others are just like lingo terms and things like that. So I thought it'd be fun to pop it in a short little video and kind of gush about my experience so far. So I'm going to start off with one of those big misconceptions, and that is that if you work in a bookstore that you get to read all day. I can honestly say this is not the case. Working in a bookstore is busy work. You are hand selling frequently. There are people looking for different recommendations across a whole different range of genres and age groups and for different people in their lives or for themselves. And if anything, in some cases, I feel like I have less time to read. So all those movies and books where someone's sitting in a bookstore and they're behind the counter reading a particular novel and it gets noted, not true. Not true. But the big plus about working in a bookstore is that you frequently see all the new releases coming in. You get to hear from customers about their favorites as well. So your TBR pile will never be under control again. You will have stacks of books you won't get through, and you're gonna see all these new things and be so tempted and probably buy them all because there is that slight thing of a discount. That is true. But essentially, you're never gonna be in control of your to be read pile ever again. And yes, this is because of recommendations from customers, from colleagues, when you see a new book from your favorite author come out and it's right there, and also from a little thing called ARCs or reader copies. Now these are advanced reader copies that publishers send out to bookstores or to book influencers, which you've probably seen crop up on like Bookstagram and Booktube and things like that. When someone receives an early copy of something, this is an unfinished copy of the book, so there could still be some changes that they will tweak slightly, but predominantly it's pretty much the same, it's just not the finished product. And publishers will send these early copies out to people to get the hype for the book up before release date. And it does help us if we do have advanced reader copies of certain things, because on release day, if I've already read the book, I can pitch that to people if I've loved it and sell it straight away. Which then leads into pitching books. You get very, very good at quickly pitching books and giving a rough synopsis and the key things in that book, like themes or things that you liked, and you get pretty good at this. It can be a lot of fun when you get on a bit of a roll and you are just kind of pitching left, right, and center. And this then also ties into the fact that to be a bookseller, it does help if you read widely. When I first came into the industry, I was predominantly a YA, fantasy, sci-fi type reader. I would dabble a little bit in fiction here and there and historical fiction, but it was like fantasy or bust. And since working in the store for the last couple of years, I have widened my reading scope a lot, and it really does help. This also ties into the very handy thing of audiobooks, which I started picking up to delve into new genres because I felt like I didn't have to put as much effort into physically reading the new genres that I was trying to branch out into, and instead it was just getting read to me on my drive to and from work. So audiobooks are your friends. Reading widely is also your biggest friend. So since starting out a few years ago, I now read more crime. I think crime has been my biggest boost since becoming a bookseller, which I'm super grateful for because I had never really read much. I think I'd read like a handful of crime novels, maybe, and thrillers, but it was very, very small. Now that's a regular audiobook pick for me, and even physically, I've been picking up some books as well, and so glad that I found that. I've also picked up some biographies alongside of more like middle grade things as well, because children's literature is a really big thing to try and be across. So I did have to start picking up a few things just so I knew some of what was in that age group. Graphic novels as well, something that I hadn't ever read before, and now I have started a small collection of my own alongside of picking up more general fiction, because that is again a very popular area. I have also learnt that having a platform that keeps you clued in to what is new, what is popular, what is trending is immensely helpful. So I have my book Instagram account, which does all of that for me. I can see what everyone's loving, I can see what everyone's super hyped about, and it's really interesting to see the publishers that I follow alongside the people that I follow and how some of them cross over, and the mix of marketing campaigns that they do between each other, but also just general things that people are loving and why they're loving it. So for example, I have picked up a few romance reads here and there for the sheer fact that people might have been talking about a particular author that they just love, and that author keeps on cropping up. So then that leads me to pick that up as well. So having something that keeps you linked in to what the community is loving is so very helpful. It also helps me keep track of what's coming out when, because I feel like when something is super hyped, people are gonna know exactly when it's coming out. BookTube also helps me a lot with this as well, because it's kind of like, I know that The Hating Game, for example, by Sally Thorne is about to become a movie, and I have not read the book yet, but now I'm hyped too because it's going to be a movie, and I learnt that because people were just screaming about it on Instagram, which is really exciting. And now we come to things that I've learnt just being physically in the store with the lingo, that type of thing. So ISBNs, when someone asks me to look for a book and they already know that they want a specific edition and they say to me, do you want the ISBN for that? My heart is so happy. So ISBN stands for International Standard Book Number, and essentially when you see a book and you see this here, and there's that 13-digit long number down the bottom, that is for this exact edition of The Hobbit. So if you grab an older copy of The Hobbit, it's going to have a different ISBN number to this one because you are buying this version, not this version. So when people know what that is, it's definitely not a requirement, but you know that they are like really clued into the book stuff. Alongside of that, you also have trade format size versus B format size. And what happens is when a book first gets released in Australia, it comes out in the larger size, not so much in like teen fiction and under, but for your fiction, biography, or those big seller type, it almost always comes out in the trade size. So if you're ever wondering why your series don't 100% match and why they always come out with the large one first, that's why. About 6 to 12 months after the trade gets released, it will come out in a B format. Now I know these are two different books, but you get the sizing difference. So these ones have a recommended retail price of usually around like the $32.99 mark, and when it moves down to the B format, that's when it's like $19.99 or $22.99 or whatnot. And that leads me into one of the key questions I get as an independent bookseller, and that is, why is your trade size book new release $32.99 but Kmart or Big W or Target has it for X amount cheaper? And that is because when those big chain stores have that pricing, they are actually selling the book at a loss. So if you've ever wondered why it's cheaper at those type of places, it's because the books are there to get you into the store, where hopefully you will then pick up random things along the way too, because you're already in the store. So it's gotten you in the store, and then as you're walking past, say like cabinets or I don't know, like clothes or whatever, you're more inclined to pick something up potentially because you're already in the store. So they sell their books at a loss, whereas us as independent booksellers, we mark our prices as provided by the publishers, because our main selling thing is books. So another myth busted for me, and when I learnt that, it made so much sense, and it actually made me want to support independent booksellers and booksellers in general more, just because the longer that we do so, the longer that we can continue to thrive. No shade against those big corporations like Kmart, Target, and Big W and whatnot, but you also don't want the future of books to just be found in those places, because you won't be getting recommended different things or whatever. Our main point of difference is the fact that we can recommend different books widely, and we are a resource. So whenever you come into a bookstore, make sure to use us if you need to, because that is what we're there for. We're there to share the love of books and to just kind of gush about all things literature. And lastly, not so much something that I've learned since becoming a bookseller, but more like a major perk of the job, is the fact that sometimes you get to meet the authors, which is just so cool in so many different ways, especially if you are already like a fan of their work, or if you are interested in their work, or just in general the respect of being able to talk to an author about what they've written and their process and all of that, and having signed copies in store. It's all round exciting. So recently I have gotten to meet Aviva, who is author of Selfless, Judy Nunn, who is just a phenomenal powerhouse author who's been writing for like 30 plus years, Anna Downs, who has just brought out her second novel, The Shadow House. There was also that time that Jessica Townsend, who is author of the Nevermore series, dropped in, even though she's from another state, so that was incredible, and a bunch of others. So it is always a huge highlight and perk of the job when you do get to meet the person behind the book. So major perk. So that's it. Those are some of the things that I have learned since becoming a bookseller and since becoming part of this really passionate industry. And if you have any further questions for me, drop them in the comments down below and I will see you down there. As always, if you did enjoy this video, drop a like on it and consider subscribing to the channel where you can see more bookish things from me. So thank you for watching. I hope you're doing okay out there, and I will see you in another one. Bye!